Despite the dark skies and heavy rainfall, Jana was driving her car, hurrying as she clutched her stomach in pain. She needed to get home before her condition worsened. As she maneuvered through the dark and nearly deserted road, she suddenly hit the brakes hard. Her car came to a full stop in the middle of the road. Just in front of her headlights, a man was lying unconscious on the wet cement. Without thinking twice, she rushed out of the car, not caring about the cold rain soaking her skin. She knelt beside the man and checked for signs of life. There was a pulse, faint but present. Panic rushed through Jana's chest. What should she do? Should she leave him there under the rain, or help him even if she had no idea who he was or what danger he might pose? Or could this man be someone who would change her life forever? This is how it all started. Jana was awakened by the crowing of a rooster and the soft footsteps of children playing outside. Despite the exhaustion from driving all night, she had to get up and face a new day. Slowly rising from the mat, she instinctively held her stomach. She was 6 months pregnant. It wasn't easy, especially since she had no one in life to lean on, but she had to keep going for her child. When she stepped out of her room, the smell of fried rice and eggs greeted her from the small kitchen. Aunt Eleanor was there, busy preparing breakfast. Though she looked slightly irritated, her movements were filled with love. "Jana, come eat first before you head out for work," the elderly woman said, placing dishes on the small dining table. She even served her a hot bowl of chicken soup with moringa leaves. "Drink this, sweetie. It's good for your strength. Skip the coffee and just drink some water, okay?" Jana smiled and slowly sat down. "Thank you, Auntie. Breakfast smells delicious. You must have woken up early again." As she ate, she noticed her aunt staring at her with concern in her eyes. "Jana," Aunt Eleanor began, arms on her hips, "I don't know what's gotten into you. You're pregnant and yet you're still driving around. Do you even realize how dangerous that is nowadays?" Jana was used to these lectures, but she knew her aunt's concern was genuine. She took a bite before replying. "I can still handle it, Auntie. I need to work. I just want to help out around here. Thanks to you and Uncle Oscar, I have a car. I can make money from driving." Aunt Eleanor sighed. "Oh, your Uncle Oscar. I told him we should have just sold that car instead of signing up for that ride-hailing nonsense. You think that grab job pays enough?" Jana shook her head, trying to keep her cool. "But Auntie, at least I'm earning something. If we sell the car, we'll lose that income too." Aunt Eleanor softened a bit. "If only your parents were still alive, you wouldn't be struggling like this." Jana didn't answer. She had lost her parents at a young age. If it weren't for her aunt and uncle, she wouldn't have a family at all. "Are you sure you don't want to reach out to the father of your baby?" Aunt Eleanor asked, her voice tinged with doubt. Jana avoided her gaze and took money out of her bag, handing it over. "Here, Auntie. For the household expenses," Aunt Eleanor shook her head and pushed the money back. No, keep that. Save it for your delivery." Jana paused. She did have a small savings, but she still wanted to contribute. Her aunt wasn't her real mother, yet never once had she been treated like an outsider. The least she could do was give back. "It's okay, Auntie. I've already set aside enough for myself. I'll get paid again at the end of the month." Aunt Eleanor saw that she couldn't stop her niece, so she simply sighed. "All right, Jana, just be careful, okay?" Jana nodded, smiled, and got ready to leave for work. She left early to start driving passengers around Metroville. Despite her car being old, it still ran reliably, good enough for her daily driving job. Her first passenger was a woman heading to the office. The woman looked at her through the rearview mirror and smiled. "You're hard-working, aren't you? Still driving even though you're pregnant. That's impressive." Jana returned a small smile. "It's all for my baby." Her passengers had different reactions. Some admired her dedication, but others gave her disapproving looks. One time, an elderly man got in and looked at her incredulously. "What the? A woman driver? And pregnant too? You should be at home, not out here on the road," he said, shaking his head. Yana glanced at the rearview mirror and saw the disapproving scowl on his face. His judgment stung, but she didn't reply. She had no time for arguments. What mattered was that she was doing this for her child. Inside a grand ballroom at a 5-star hotel, important figures in the business world gathered. Notable investors, executives, and business tycoons were all in attendance for a special event, the formal appointment of Alexander Chen as the new CEO of Chen Global Holdings. Standing at the front was Alexander, tall, dignified, and authoritative in appearance. He wore a navy blue suit, complete with cufflinks engraved with their family crest. Behind him was the massive logo of their company, a symbol of success and the legacy built by his father. As the host announced his name, a subtle smile formed on Alexander's lips. This was the beginning of a new chapter in his life. He walked up to the podium, took the microphone, and faced the guests. He held the speech he had written, but in the end, he didn't read it. Instead, he looked directly at everyone, not just as guests, but as people relying on his leadership. Off to the side, he saw his parents looking at him with pride. After the ceremony, they had an intimate dinner at an exclusive restaurant. Alexander remained quiet as his parents joyfully ate. "Son, are you okay?" his mother asked. "Yes, Ma, I'm just processing everything," he replied as he adjusted the cuffs on his suit. His father leaned back in his chair and smiled. "You've come a long way, Alexander, from a sickly boy to a strong CEO." "Indeed," his mother added, "and we expect nothing but the best from you." Alexander knew it wasn't just a reminder, it was an order. His father still smiled, but the tone of his voice was serious. "Now that you're the CEO, son, it's time you drop the unnecessary things in your life. Start focusing on your responsibilities. No more parties, no more vices." Alexander smiled faintly and nodded. "Yes, Dad, I promise. No more parties. I have a family name to take care of." His parents seemed satisfied with his answer. They spoke a few more minutes about business plans before finally saying their goodbyes. The next day, his parents flew to China to officially begin their retirement. Alexander now held everything in his hands. But despite all his achievements, there was one thing Alexander couldn't shake from his mind. After a long day at the office, he sat in his private lounge inside the building, holding a glass of water while staring out the wide window overlooking the city lights of Metroville. He had done everything expected of him, pleased his parents, impressed the business community. So why did something feel missing? He pressed a hand to his temple and smiled bitterly. He knew what it was. The truth was, he wanted to settle down. At his age, he still had no wife, not even a serious relationship. For the past year, his mind had been consumed by business. His parents often set him up with various wealthy Chinese-American socialites, but none of them lasted. All his relationships had been short, casual, and without commitment. But now he could feel it. He wanted to start a family of his own. Still, it wasn't that easy. He knew he needed to prove first to himself that he could carry the empire of their family. He couldn't entrust his heart to someone else until he was completely sure of his capabilities as a CEO. So even though he wanted to find someone to love, he wouldn't pursue it, at least not yet. He would return to his work and be the perfect CEO. And when the right time came, only then would he look for the woman who would complete his life. Before the day ended, he attended 3 more corporate events. He shook hands with investors, smiled for cameras, and answered countless media questions. And now, despite being completely drained, he was driving himself home. His driver had an emergency, and Alexander didn't want to bother any of his other staff on such short notice. so he decided to drive himself. It was late, the sky was dark, and a storm seemed to be brewing. As he navigated the winding roads toward his penthouse, fatigue started to pull at him. His grip on the steering wheel tightened. "Damn it," he muttered. He needed to rest. He pulled over to a secluded part of the road. Taking a deep breath, he leaned his head against the headrest. Just a few minutes. He stepped out of the car for some fresh air, but as soon as he stood up, his vision blurred, his chest tightened, and the dizziness worsened. In a split second, he collapsed on the side of the road, unconscious. Elsewhere in the city, Yana was on her final trip of the night. The rain was pouring hard, and the loud drumming of raindrops on her car roof echoed through the quiet night. "This rain feels like a signal number 3 storm," she muttered as she adjusted her windshield wipers. She should have gone home earlier, but she pushed herself to complete one last booking. She needed the money. Her stomach ached, and she rubbed it gently as she drove. "Hang in there, baby. We're almost home." The streets were nearly deserted. As she drove through a dimly lit area, she suddenly slammed the brakes, hard. A figure was sprawled on the roadside, a man, unconscious. Yana quickly turned on her hazard lights and jumped out of the car, not caring that the rain was soaking her. Her hands trembled as she approached the man. He was tall, wearing a suit, clearly someone wealthy. "Sir," she called out, gently tapping his shoulder, but he didn't move. She grabbed her phone and called the hospital. As the call rang, she placed her fingers on his neck. "Thank God, he still has a pulse," she whispered, though fear crept in. She didn't know what else to do. "Hello? Emergency? There's a man here on—" Before she could finish, she heard the roar of a helicopter overhead. Moments later, an ambulance and several private cars arrived, like a scene from a movie. Yana stepped back. "What is this? Who is this man?" she thought, alarmed. Men in suits quickly exited the vehicles, clearly security personnel. One of them approached her. "Miss, what did you see?" Her anxiety spiked, but she tried to remain calm. "I was just driving and saw him on the road. I called the hospital. I'm just a grab driver." The man gave her a long look as if sizing her up. Then he nodded. "Thank you for your help. We'll take it from here." Medics rushed over and began treating Alexander. Only then did Yana realize she was soaking wet and starting to shiver. Stress and cold overcame her. One medic noticed her condition and her pregnant belly. "Miss, are you all right?" Yana blinked. "Yes, I'm okay," she replied, but the medic wasn't convinced. "You look distressed. Come with us to the hospital." No, I'm fine," she tried to protest, but then her stomach cramped. She gasped and clutched her belly. The medics exchanged glances. "Come with us. Your condition and your baby are both important." Before she could refuse again, they helped her into the ambulance. Inside, Yana sat silently on the edge of the vehicle. Across from her lay the man she found, Alexander. She held her stomach, unsure how she'd gotten caught up in all this. She started the day as a simple grab driver, and now she was in a situation she couldn't comprehend. As the ambulance sped toward the hospital, only one question filled her mind. Who is this man, and why does it feel like his world is so big? Inside a private hospital room, Yana lay in bed, wearing a white hospital gown. Though the atmosphere was calm, she couldn't stop worrying about her baby's condition. The door suddenly opened, and Aunt Eleanor entered, her face full of concern. "Oh, my child, what happened to you?" She rushed to Yana's bedside and took her cold hand. "What are you doing in the hospital?" Yana sighed. She knew her aunt would worry, but she had no choice but to explain. "Auntie, I'm fine. Don't worry too much." But Elena wasn't convinced. She looked at the hospital gown Yana was wearing, her forehead wrinkling even more. "If you're okay, then why are you dressed like that? Are you in pain? What happened?" Before Jana could answer, a doctor in a white coat walked in with a clipboard. "Ma'am, we'll need to conduct a full checkup on Miss Jana. She mentioned abdominal pain earlier, so we need to do an ultrasound to ensure the baby is in good condition." Aunt Eleanor's eyes widened. Wait, why is your stomach hurting? What happened that brought you here?" At that point, Jana decided to tell the whole story, how she found the unconscious man on the road, how the medics noticed she was distressed, and how she ended up in the ambulance with him. As she recounted everything, Aunt Eleanor listened in disbelief. "Oh, Jana, what have you gotten yourself into? Good thing nothing bad happened to you. If something worse had happened, I don't even know." Jana gave a small smile at her aunt's dramatic reaction. She was used to it. Still, a sense of anxiety lingered, for herself and her baby. Suddenly, the curtain separating her bed from the rest of the room was pulled back. Another doctor and a nurse entered, wheeling in an ultrasound machine. "We'll begin the scan now," the doctor said. Jana took a deep breath as they applied the cold gel to her belly. When the probe touched her skin, she stared at the screen, waiting for any sign that her baby was okay. After a few minutes, the doctor nodded. "Good news, your baby is doing fine." Jana's eyes filled with tears of relief, but her comfort was quickly replaced with concern as the doctor looked at her seriously. "However," the doctor added, "you need to rest. Your pregnancy is delicate. Your job as a grab driver isn't safe for you or the baby." Jana tried to sit up. "But doctor, my job isn't that strenuous. I'm just sitting all day." The doctor shook his head. "You may be seated, but you're constantly on the road. Always in traffic. Always at risk. It would be better for you to stop working. If your stress levels worsen, we'll have to put you on bed rest." The news hit Jana like a bomb. "But how will I survive if I stop working?" Aunt Eleanor looked at her, clearly concerned, but also a bit annoyed. "Oh, Jana, how many times have I told you to stop driving already? You keep pushing yourself." "The baby's safety should come first," she added. Jana fell silent. After the checkup, she found herself asking the nurse a question. "Miss, by the way, how's the man I was brought in with?" The nurse, busy organizing some records, replied, "Oh, him? Just over fatigue, but he's doing better now." Aunt Eleanor raised an eyebrow. "That man again." Before they could ask further questions, the door opened and a woman in corporate attire entered. She was tall, wearing glasses, and looked every bit the professional. She approached Jana and smiled gently. "Good evening. I'm Victoria Cruz, Mr. Alexander Chen's secretary." Jana furrowed her brows slightly. "Alexander Chen? Who's that?" she thought to herself. Victoria continued, "I've been personally sent by Mr. Chen to thank you for helping him." She handed Jana an envelope, clearly containing money. "We'd like to give this to you as a token of gratitude." Jana was surprised. "Oh no, ma'am, that's not necessary. I didn't help him expecting anything in return." Victoria smiled but didn't take the envelope back. "Please accept it. We understand your situation isn't easy right now." Jana hesitated, but was even more puzzled when Victoria handed her a business card. "If you ever need help, don't hesitate to call this number." Before she could say anything, Aunt Eleanor interrupted. "Jana, be careful. Don't just accept anything from strangers." Jana looked at the card in her hand. She didn't know whether to feel grateful or suspicious. Elsewhere in the hospital, Alexander lay in his private room, quietly listening to Victoria's report. "Sir, we've given our thanks to the woman who helped you." Alexander nodded. He couldn't quite remember her face, but he knew he owed her. Victoria seemed hesitant. "Sir, there's something else you need to know." Alexander turned to her. "What is it?" Victoria took a deep breath before answering. She's pregnant, and I heard she's going through a tough time. I thought you should know. Maybe you'd want to help her." Alexander froze. He stared into space. There was something unfamiliar, something he couldn't explain, about the way he felt when he heard that, and for the first time in a long time, he found himself confused. Since the doctor advised her to stop working as a grab driver, Jana's days had become even more difficult, not just because she was now unemployed, but because she kept thinking about the upcoming expenses for her delivery. "What will I do now?" she asked herself as she sat on her bed, holding her belly. She had no other source of income. She had savings, but they weren't enough to cover her needs until she gave birth. And although Aunt Eleanor had offered to help, Jana knew her aunt already had many expenses, payments for their cousins, house bills, and other family needs. Jana didn't want to be a burden, so she decided to have the car she used for Grab registered for rent. That way, even if she couldn't drive, she'd still earn a bit of income. But no matter how much she tried to cut back on expenses, she could still feel how hard life was becoming. Meanwhile, ever since Jana had saved him that night, Alexander couldn't get her out of his mind. As he sat in his office, he kept replaying everything that happened. What if she hadn't passed by? What would have happened to me? It was a dark street. It was late at night and it was raining. Who would have seen him lying there if not for Jana? He didn't know why, but he felt he owed her deeply. The longer time passed, the more bothered he became. He couldn't shake the feeling that Jana might be struggling with her current situation. Finally, he made up his mind. He was going to help her, not just by giving her money, but by making sure she'd be safe and comfortable for the remaining months of her pregnancy. And so, he came up with a plan. Jana was in the middle of cooking a simple dinner when her cell phone suddenly rang. The caller ID was unfamiliar. "Hello?" she answered softly. "Good evening, Miss Jana. This is Mrs. Victoria Tan. I believe you remember me." Jana quickly recognized the woman, Alexander Chen's secretary. "Oh yes, Ma'am Victoria. Good evening. Is there something I can help you with?" "Actually, we're the ones who want to help you. Mr. Chen himself has instructed us to offer you a safe and comfortable place to stay during your pregnancy. He doesn't want you to worry about expenses anymore. That's why he would like to invite you to stay at his mansion." Jana's eyes widened. "Mansion? But why? I didn't ask for help." "We know," Victoria replied calmly. "But he simply wants to return the kindness you showed him. If you hadn't helped him that night, who knows what could have happened? You saved his life, and now he wants to make sure you are safe too." Jana didn't know how to respond. Was all of this real? She thought of declining, but then she remembered her situation. No job, no income, and a baby on the way. She didn't know what to do, but what Victoria said next made her pause even more. "You don't have to stay there for free. You'll still have work. You'll be the one in charge of managing the company's necessary documents. You'll receive a salary." Jana thought deeply. It wasn't charity, it was a job, and in many ways, it was safer too. In the end, she agreed. The day came when someone was scheduled to pick up Jana. As she stood in front of the house, she couldn't believe her eyes when a limousine pulled up in front of her. "Oh my God, Auntie, is this real?" she whispered. Even Aunt Eleanor was speechless. "I don't know what to say, Jana. Just be careful, okay?" When she stepped into the limousine, Jana couldn't help but feel nervous. She felt like a princess being taken to a palace. When she arrived at Alexander's mansion, she was even more shocked. "This place is enormous," she whispered. The mansion had a huge gate, a fountain in front, and several luxury cars. That's when she realized just how wealthy Alexander was. No wonder there were helicopters and private cars that night. Then, for the first time, she saw Alexander again. She froze when she saw him standing on the steps. He was wearing a white long-sleeved shirt with the sleeves rolled up, a luxury watch on his wrist, and carried himself like royalty. But what she couldn't understand was why her heart suddenly raced. It felt familiar, like there was a connection she couldn't explain. She shook the thought away as she walked up to Alexander. When she reached him, she bowed slightly. "Sir, I don't know how to thank you. This is a huge help for me." Alexander smiled, a rare expression for him. "There's no need to thank me. I just want to make sure you're safe. You saved my life. It's the least I can do." Yana nodded. "I'll pay you back when I can." Alexander shook his head. "You don't need to pay me back. What's important is that you're okay." Yana was touched by his words. Before leaving for the office, Alexander turned to Victoria and said, "Take care of Yana." As Victoria gave Yana a tour of the mansion, Yana couldn't help but ask questions. "Miss Victoria, is Mr. Alexander always this kind? Does he usually help people like this?" Victoria smiled. "He's always been helpful and kind, even if he seems strict and serious, but—" She paused, seeming to think for a moment whether or not to say something. "You're the only one he's brought into this mansion." Yana stopped. "Just me?" Victoria nodded. "Yes, just you." And for reasons she couldn't explain, something stirred inside Yana's heart. Why did it feel so strange? Why did it seem like something she couldn't remember? "It feels like a dream," she thought as she sat on a soft chair inside one of the mansion's spacious offices. Next to her were neatly arranged flowers and a stack of company papers she was assigned to organize for Alexander Chen. She never imagined she'd end up in a place like this. Only weeks ago, she was driving through the rain, worrying about how to survive the month. Now she was working as a personal assistant in a grand mansion, and most importantly, her condition as a pregnant woman was safe. In truth, the work wasn't even that hard. Her only responsibilities were organizing papers, checking schedules, and ensuring documents were ready for Alexander to sign. No stress, no traffic, and most of all, no physical strain. She was happy. The mansion staff were kind. Though she was shy at first, she eventually learned to get along. "Miss Yana, would you like some juice?" one of the house staff asked. "It's okay, I can get it myself." "Oh no, ma'am, it's part of our job. Don't hesitate, you're a guest here." "But I'm not just visiting, I work here too." "Well, it's just that you're different, ma'am. Mr. Alexander treats you differently." Yana frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" "You're really special. Sir doesn't usually let just anyone in this house." She paused. "Why is that?" But Yana didn't pay much attention to that now. She was simply glad that her work was light and that she had nothing to worry about. Alexander was often busy with meetings, conference calls, or attending business summits. But when he was at the mansion, it was impossible not to notice how different he was outside the office. No longer just a CEO, but a normal person. Sometimes they'd cross paths in the hallway. "Good morning, sir." "Good morning, Yana. How are you?" He always asked how she was doing, if she felt okay, if she needed anything. And each time they talked, Yana started seeing a different side of Alexander, a caring, helpful man who was surprisingly easy to talk to. One night, Victoria said she had something to take care of outside, so Alexander personally brought the documents to Yana's room. She had just finished showering and was in a duster dress. When she heard a knock, "Yana!" Alexander called. She panicked. "Just a moment!" She quickly dried her hair and fixed herself before opening the door. There stood Alexander, holding a few folders. "Sorry to disturb you." "Oh no, sir. What is it?" "There are some documents that need to be signed. Maybe you'd like to review them first before I submit them tomorrow." She took the documents and replied, "Sure, I'll read through them." Thank you. Alexander paused and looked at her. You know, I envy you. She stopped. Why, sir? It's like, no matter what you're going through, you still manage to smile. She looked down, blushing. Before she could respond, Alexander had already walked away, and she couldn't explain why, but it felt like something had stirred inside her. As the days passed, Yana and Alexander grew even more comfortable with each other. Their exchanges evolved from polite smiles to conversations that stretched into hours. But no matter how much they tried to ignore it, there was something neither of them could admit. They were slowly falling for each other. One evening, Alexander was in the study room, reading through some business reports when the door suddenly opened. He looked up and saw Yana walking in with a tray of milk. I just thought, you've been reading for a while. Maybe you haven't taken a break. He looked at her and smiled. You're right. I didn't realize it's already midnight. She placed the tray on the table and sat across from him. You should rest. You can't work all the time. Maybe, he said, but my work is my life. Yana smiled gently. But even CEOs are human. You need to take care of yourself too. Alexander fell silent, staring at her. He didn't know why, but there was a warmth in her concern that touched him. In all his years in the corporate world, very few people had told him to rest, and now, this simple woman he never expected was telling him to take care of himself. Their eyes met, and in that moment, they both felt something. But before anything could happen, Yana looked away. Well, I'll go ahead. Good night. Good night, Yana. Alexander watched her walk away, quietly holding back a smile. One sunny morning, they happened to walk together in the garden. As they strolled, Alexander remained quiet. Is something on your mind? Yana asked. He looked at her and smiled. Not really, I'm happy to see you doing well. She placed a hand on her belly. Yes, I'm due soon. I didn't realize how fast time had flown. Alexander nodded, but there was a tinge of sadness in his eyes. What are your plans after giving birth? She fell silent. They had agreed before that she would leave after giving birth, but now she wasn't sure if she still wanted to go. I'm not sure yet, she said softly. It seemed like Alexander wanted to say something more, but before he could, the baby kicked. Ow! So active today, huh? Are you okay? Alexander asked with concern. Yana laughed. Yes, it's normal. I think he just wants attention. Can I? Alexander asked. Can I feel the baby? Though hesitant, Yana nodded. Alexander gently placed his hand on her belly. Moments later, they both felt a strong kick. Alexander's face lit up like a child's. Wow, you're right. He's really active. Yana smiled. I told you, I think he wants to meet you. Alexander looked at her. And I want to meet him too. Yana's heart started to race. Early one morning, Yana suddenly woke up in pain. Ow! She gasped. She immediately grabbed her cell phone and called Victoria. Not long after, the door opened and Alexander entered, his face still marked by sleep. What happened? I think I'm about to give birth. Without hesitation, Alexander scooped her up and carried her to the car. The worry on his face was obvious. Don't worry, I won't leave you, he said. As the car sped toward the hospital, Yana couldn't explain the emotions she was feeling. Why was it Alexander who was with her at such a crucial moment in her life? When they arrived at the hospital, nurses quickly met them and brought Yana to the delivery room. But as they rushed, a nurse approached Alexander. Sir, as the father of the baby, please fill out this form. Alexander's eyes widened. Huh? Yana, already in pain, turned to them. Wait, he's not the father, she shouted. The nurse stopped and laughed awkwardly. Oh, sorry, sir, I assumed. Even Alexander didn't know how to react. No, but it's okay. I'll help her. As they wheeled Yana into the delivery room, Alexander couldn't help but think, why didn't I correct the nurse sooner? Why does it feel okay? Yana's labor lasted long. Alexander waited outside, pacing, anxious. He didn't know why he was so worried. Why did it feel like he wasn't just waiting for an employee to give birth? Hours passed. Finally, the doctor came out. Sir, it was a successful delivery, a healthy baby boy. Alexander sighed deeply, as if a huge weight had been lifted. He quickly went to the nursery room and saw a tiny baby sleeping peacefully inside the incubator. And that's when he felt something unexpected, a connection. I don't know why, he whispered, but I feel something special for this baby. A few days later, Yana was cleared to go home. According to their earlier agreement, she was supposed to leave the mansion after giving birth. But as she was packing her things, Alexander appeared. What are you doing? Just packing my things. I'll be leaving soon. Alexander's expression changed. Why are you leaving? Well, that was our agreement, wasn't it? She replied, confused by his tone. Alexander looked at her, then slowly shook his head. That's not our agreement anymore. Yana stared at him, puzzled. Stay, for now at least until you recover. She blinked. Why? Alexander took a deep breath and looked at her. Because I don't want you to leave yet. At that moment, Yana's heart began to beat faster. Months passed, and Yana's son grew quickly, from a small, fragile newborn into a healthy and cheerful child, adored by everyone in the mansion. She and Alexander often talked about the baby, especially at night while watching him sleep in his crib. Yana often thought her child was lucky. Even without a father, he was growing up surrounded by love. But what Alexander didn't know was that the story of the baby's father wasn't exactly what Yana had told everyone. One night, Yana sat on the mansion's veranda, cradling her baby. Quietly, Alexander joined her, carrying 2 cups of hot tea. Just the 2 of us again, he teased, handing her one. Yana smiled and accepted the drink. Thanks, boss. Alexander sat beside her. They both looked at the sleeping baby in his crib. You know, Alexander suddenly said, I don't know why, but I feel a special connection with this baby. Yana paused. Why do you say that? He sighed. I don't know, I just want to take care of him. Yana smiled, but her chest felt heavy. Maybe because you haven't really met his real father, she joked, trying to lighten the mood. Speaking of, Alexander said, suddenly serious, why haven't you looked for him? Shouldn't he be here for both of you? Yana froze, pretending to fix the baby's blanket. He's busy. We broke up, but he's still abroad. Couldn't come back because of paperwork. Alexander nodded. So that's why. You're on your own. I hope he returns soon. Raising a child isn't easy alone. Yana lowered her head. She couldn't bring herself to say the truth. 2 years earlier, she was just an ordinary catering staff at large events. She'd get invited to serve at high-profile parties because of her excellent work ethic. One night, she was assigned to a grand masquerade ball in a luxurious hotel. The guests were elite members of society, business moguls, political families, and celebrities. Wearing her simple catering uniform, Yana stood quietly at the side of the ballroom, observing the extravagant celebration. The decorations were stunning, chandeliers sparkling from above, long curtains made of expensive fabrics, and a dance floor filled with elegantly dressed guests wearing masks. It felt like a fairy tale. But before she could return to her duties, something unexpected happened. A drunk man blocked her path. Hey, miss, you're too pretty to be carrying trays like that, he slurred, grinning. Yana tried to avoid him, but he stepped closer. Please let me go, sir. I'm working, she said firmly. Before things could escalate, A tall man in a mask suddenly stepped in and pushed the drunk man away. "Back off!" The drunk man backed down and left in a huff. Yana was overwhelmed with gratitude toward the stranger who had helped her. She couldn't see his face because of the mask, but he had a commanding presence, not just an ordinary guest. After the incident, they spoke briefly. "You shouldn't go back inside. There are more drunk guests who might bother you." "But I still have work," Yana replied. "I'll walk you outside. At least you'll be safe." She didn't know why, but she felt comfortable around him. They walked outside the ballroom and talked. He said he was a businessman who was forced to attend the party even though he didn't like such events. They had drinks at the hotel bar, and in a twist of fate, they both got drunk. That night, they made a mistake. The next morning, Yana woke up in a hotel room. The man was lying next to her, face down, and she couldn't see his face. Her hands trembled as she quietly got out of bed. She couldn't face him. She couldn't accept what had happened. In shock and shame, she left without looking back. She never saw him again. Weeks passed, and she started noticing changes in her body. She was pregnant. She had no idea who the father was. She didn't even know the man's name. Out of embarrassment, she told everyone that her boyfriend had left her, that the baby's father was abroad and never returned. Now, sitting on the mansion's veranda with Alexander, she couldn't help but remember everything. Alexander didn't know the truth, and she chose to keep lying, afraid it would change how he saw her. "Boss," she suddenly asked, "why are you helping me like this?" Alexander looked at her and smiled. "Because I want to help, and because I want to see him grow up," he said, pointing to her child. Because of his answer, Yana couldn't help but smile. Her life had changed so much, from being a single mother, unsure of how to raise her child, to meeting Alexander. And now, even if nothing more would come of it, even if they remained just friends, it was enough for her that he was here. With each passing day, Alexander and Yana's bond grew stronger. From simple conversations at night while putting the baby to sleep, to small gestures of care, their feelings for each other deepened. But there was something they couldn't explain. Why did they feel like they already knew each other? One night, while watching a movie in the mansion's wide entertainment room, Yana noticed something in Alexander's laugh. It sounded familiar. She slowly turned to look at him. There was something whispering inside her, telling her she had known him long ago. Alexander noticed her staring and smiled. "What's with that look? Do I have something on my face?" Yana blinked. "No, nothing. I just remembered something." But she couldn't explain what. Another time, while they were sorting through old items in the mansion attic, a mask fell from a box. Alexander picked it up and examined it. "A masquerade mask?" he said, holding it curiously. Suddenly, a memory flashed in Yana's mind. An extravagant party, a man in a mask, and a night she could never forget. She swallowed hard. Could he be the man from that night? As they continued building their peaceful and joyful life in the mansion, an unexpected event shook everything. Alexander's parents suddenly returned from China, without warning or prior notice. One afternoon, while Yana was in the living room with her child, a series of car horns echoed from outside. She peeked through the window and saw a convoy of luxury vehicles entering the estate. Moments later, the mansion doors opened, and an older man in a business suit and a graceful woman in elegant attire entered. They were Alexander's parents. "Alexander, my son!" his mother exclaimed warmly, but there was clear surprise in her eyes when she saw Yana and the child inside the mansion. Alexander approached quickly. "Mom? Dad? Why are you suddenly here?" His father looked at Yana, who was holding the child. "And who are they?" Alexander took a deep breath, then gently held Yana's hand. "Mom, Dad, this is my girlfriend, Yana. and this is her son, whom I consider my own. Yana saw Alexander's mother raise an eyebrow, though she quickly masked her reaction with a polite smile. Girlfriend? She repeated, her gaze scanning Yana from head to toe. Yes, Alexander confirmed, and I want you to know they're very important to me. Though his mother didn't voice any objections, Yana could feel the hesitation behind her smile. Meanwhile, Alexander's father remained quiet, merely observing. Still, Yana couldn't help but feel giddy. She hadn't expected Alexander to call her his girlfriend in front of his parents. But despite the joy, unease settled in her chest, like a storm looming on the horizon. A few days later, Yana received an unexpected phone call. It was from Alexander's mother. Yana, I'd like to invite you to lunch at a Chinese restaurant tomorrow. I'd like to get to know you better. Since his mother hadn't directly opposed their relationship, Yana thought this could be the chance to be fully accepted as part of the family. At first, their conversation went well. Alexander's mother spoke warmly, asking about motherhood, how she raised the child, and how Alexander had grown close to them. But as their discussion deepened, the tone slowly changed. You know, Yana, the older woman said, gently setting down her teacup. I can see you're a good woman, and I don't mean to insult your relationship with Alexander, but there's something I have to say. Yana paused. What is it? The woman took a deep breath. We've already chosen someone for Alexander to marry. It felt as if Yana's world suddenly stopped. Excuse me? She asked, her voice barely audible. You understand he's part of a royal Chinese family, don't you? The woman continued, calm but firm. He has a duty to marry a woman of Chinese blood, not someone like you, with a child and from a different background. Yana's chest tightened. But isn't love what matters more? The woman met her eyes. If you truly love my son, let him go. Tears welled up in Yana's eyes. I don't understand. He's with you out of debt. You saved his life. That's why he's here, supporting you and your child. But you and he are not meant to be together. Then the woman slid an envelope across the table. There's a large sum inside. It should be enough to help you start over. Please, leave my son. Yana stared at the envelope in disbelief. It felt like a scene from a movie, but this was her reality. Slowly, she pushed the envelope back. I'm not that kind of woman. The woman gave a cold smile. You don't have to be that kind to accept reality. You and Alexander are not meant for each other. That night, Yana couldn't sleep. Was Alexander's mother right? Was Alexander only helping her out of a sense of obligation? If he did love her, could that love withstand the destruction it could bring to his life? She glanced at her sleeping child. Could she fight for their love, even if it meant breaking Alexander apart from his family and duty? A single question haunted her. What should I do? That night was painful for Yana. As she lulled her child to sleep, she looked around the room they shared inside Alexander's grand mansion. She had grown to love this place, the warmth, the silence, the sense of home. But most of all, she had grown to love the presence of Alexander. Still, she knew this couldn't last. As her baby slept peacefully, Yana sat down at the table and took a deep breath. She picked up a pen and began to write the hardest letter she had ever written. Alexander, I know this will surprise you, but this is the only way I can protect you and myself. Please don't look for me. I won't be coming back. I received a job offer, an opportunity that's best for me and my child. I have to accept it. And one more thing I need to confess. I've gotten back together with the baby's father, my ex. We've decided to start over and build a family, so there's no more reason for me to stay here. Alexander, I want you to know, you're one of the best things that ever happened to me. I'll never forget the memories we made, the late-night talks, the way you cared for my child, and how you valued us. But I know this isn't right. I'm not the woman for you. I don't belong in your world. Thank you for everything. Goodbye." With every word, Yana couldn't stop her tears, but she knew this was the right thing to do. It was early morning. Alexander had no idea it would be the last time he woke up in the same house as Yana. Carrying a small suitcase and her sleeping baby in her arms, Yana stepped out quietly. She didn't want anyone to wake up. She didn't want to be seen. For the last time, she looked around the mansion, a place that had brought her happiness she never thought she'd feel again. Then, she placed the letter on Alexander's desk and left. The next day, Alexander woke up feeling lighter than usual, until he noticed the stillness of the house. Usually, he'd hear the baby's laughter or Yana's soft footsteps in the kitchen, but today it was silent. He went downstairs and saw the letter on his desk. He opened it and began to read. As he got deeper into the letter, it felt like something was strangling his chest. Each word pierced him like a blade. She had gone back to her ex. She wasn't coming back. She had a new life. Alexander dropped to his knees, clutching the letter, his tears falling freely. He couldn't believe it. He thought Yana felt the same. He thought they had something real. His parents walked into the room and saw the anguish on his face. "What now?" his mother asked. Alexander didn't answer. His father took the letter and read it quickly. A bitter smile formed on his lips. "I knew it. That's just how Filipinas are. They take what they want, protection, help, and then they leave." His mother shook her head. "You were never meant to be with someone outside our heritage. That wasn't for you. That wasn't for our family." But no matter what they said, Alexander knew it wasn't true. He knew Yana. He knew what they had as real. But what could he do if she had already left? Because of the pain of losing Yana, Alexander felt like everything had lost its meaning. There was no reason left to fight, no reason left to resist. So when his parents reminded him of his arranged marriage to a woman from the Yu family, he didn't fight it. He didn't ask questions. He didn't resist. Without Yana, what was the point? The dreaded day finally came for Alexander. He stood in the middle of a grand ballroom, wearing a perfectly tailored suit, about to be engaged in a marriage he had never wanted. In front of him stood his soon-to-be fiancée, a woman he barely knew but had been chosen for him by his family. All around, the guests were clapping and celebrating the union of two powerful business empires, the Chen and Yu families. "For the Chen and Yu family, and for their successful empires," shouted the host, while the crowd applauded and cheered. But amidst all the joy and festivity, Alexander's heart was walking in the opposite direction. Tightly gripping his wineglass, he looked around the hall, searching for something familiar. But there was nothing. No one was there who was supposed to be by his side. And as everyone else rejoiced, Alexander's world felt like it was falling apart. He was thinking only one thing. "I already met the woman I love, but I can't be with her, and now I have to marry someone I don't even care for." He looked around once more, hoping, praying for anything, but all he saw were strangers. As he stood there frozen, his mother called out. "Alexander, what are you doing?" she asked sharply. His father stepped closer. "Son?" "Sir?" the wedding coordinator prompted, puzzled. But Alexander didn't respond to any of them. Without hesitation, he turned away from the altar and walked out, fast, determined, unwavering. "Alexander!" his mother screamed. "What are you doing?" "What's going on?" his father demanded. "Sir!" the wedding coordinator called again, confused. But Alexander didn't turn back. He didn't explain. As the entire wedding party stood in shock, Alexander walked out of the cathedral, ignoring the desperate calls behind him, and before disappearing from view, he said only one thing. "I am really sorry." He drove faster than he ever had before, He couldn't remember exactly how he got to the hospital. All he knew was that he had to get there. Inside the hospital, Jana sat alone, unaware of the chaos coming her way. She still couldn't accept her child's condition. "Dear God, what am I supposed to do?" she whispered, exhausted and drained. Suddenly, someone burst through the door. She looked up and gasped. It was Alexander, still in his suit, still breathless, as if he had just run a marathon. He looked at Jana with eyes full of emotion, and in that single moment, Jana understood what he had done. "I'm here," Alexander whispered. He glanced at the baby, sleeping in the hospital bed. Then he walked over to Jana, wiped away her tears, and said in a trembling voice, "I'm not leaving again." The entire country woke up to massive headlines. The wedding that was supposed to unite two of the most powerful Filipino-Chinese business empires had been called off. Every newspaper, TV network, and social media platform exploded with the same shocking update. Billionaire CEO flees own wedding. Chen family heir leaves bride at the altar for a Filipina and her child. The great wedding scandal. Alexander Chen walks out on arranged marriage. But Alexander didn't care. Amid all the noise, rumors, and his family's outrage, only one thing mattered to him: Jana and her child's condition. Inside the hospital room, Alexander sat silently beside the child's bed. He hadn't left his spot, not for a second. Night had fallen, but he remained by their side. Jana sat quietly next to him, her eyes fixed on her child, connected to IV lines and monitors. The fear and exhaustion on her face were unmistakable. She had never imagined this day would come, where her greatest fear would become the biggest battle of her life. She glanced at Alexander, who hadn't moved. "Fix your life, Alexander," she said gently. "I know your family must be furious." But Alexander didn't look at her. His gaze remained on the child, deep in thought. "I don't care," he finally said. "I can't leave you." The next day, the test results finally came. The doctor approached them with the medical report in hand, his expression serious. "Are you ready to hear the results?" he asked. Jana could barely breathe. Alexander tightened his grip on her hand. "Doctor, what's wrong with our baby?" Jana asked, her voice shaking. The doctor turned to Alexander. "Sir Alexander, you might find this condition familiar." Alexander frowned. "What do you mean?" The doctor sighed deeply before continuing. "Your child has a rare congenital heart disease. So far, there have only been 3 recorded cases in the country, and your child is the 4th. Silence fell over the room. Alexander's chest tightened. "Congenital heart disease?" he whispered. The doctor nodded. "Yes, 3 recorded cases so far. 2 are female. And the 3rd? He paused, then looked at Alexander. "Was you, Mr. Chen." It hit Alexander like a punch to the gut. The same disease, the exact same condition. "Why is it the same?" he asked, stunned. The doctor continued. "There's a genetic link in your family. Both your mother and grandmother had this condition before it was passed on to you. According to our findings, this disease doesn't occur randomly. It's only passed down through blood." He paused again. "And based on all the evidence, the only possible way for this child to have the condition, as if you're the father." Alexander felt the world crumble around him. His knees went weak. It meant this child was his. He couldn't speak. Jana was equally stunned, her face pale. "No, that can't be," she murmured, shaking her head. But Alexander wasn't in denial. "I want confirmation," he said quietly. "I want a DNA test." Jana hesitated, but she knew she had no choice. They had to know the truth. 3 days passed. 3 long days filled with anxiety and fear about what the results would reveal. During that time, Alexander never left the child's side. He was more attentive, more protective, and more emotional than ever before. Then, finally, the results arrived. In a hospital conference room, Jana and Alexander sat across from the doctor. The doctor opened the envelope and read the report. He looked up and said clearly, "Based on the DNA test results, the biological father of the child is Mr. Alexander Chen." The room fell silent. Jana felt like the world had stopped spinning. She turned to Alexander, who remained frozen in place. "Alexander," she whispered. He didn't respond. He simply looked up, letting the tears fall freely from his eyes. That child, the one he'd run from the altar for, the one he couldn't abandon, he was his son. They returned to the hospital room in silence. Jana sat beside her child, her heart overwhelmed by a flood of emotions. She didn't know what to feel: shock, fear, joy. She looked at Alexander, who now stood beside the baby's crib. Tears still welled in his eyes, but they weren't tears of sadness. He was crying from love. Alexander gently stroked the baby's tiny hand. "You're my son," he whispered, almost in disbelief. "All this time, I've been searching for you." He wrapped his arms around the child, holding him tightly, not caring who might see. In that moment, Alexander knew. He would never hesitate again. He would never hide again. He would no longer live under his family's expectations, because finally he knew who truly mattered. But the emotional whirlwind wasn't over. Jana looked at him with trembling lips. "Alexander." He glanced back at her, still full of emotion. "There's something you need to know," she said. "Your parents, they're here, in the hospital's VIP lounge." Inside that VIP lounge, Alexander sat quietly across from his parents. Jana stayed near the corner, gripping her hands under the table to keep them from shaking. Her heart was pounding. She didn't know how to face the Chen family again, especially after being rejected before. But instead of anger, she saw something she never expected. Tears. Tears streamed down Madame Alice Chen's face. "We already know the truth, Alexander," she said through her sobs. Alexander didn't respond. He wasn't sure how to take the sudden shift in his mother's tone. The same mother who had forced him into an engagement, the same mother who had humiliated Jana. "We had you investigated," she continued, "after the scandal at the wedding." Mr. Chen nodded solemnly. "And we learned everything about Jana and the baby." Madame Alice turned to Jana, her eyes full of remorse. "Forgive me, dear." Jana gasped. She never imagined hearing that from Alexander's mother. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice shaky. Alice took a deep breath. "I harbored so much resentment toward you. I assumed you were just another woman trying to take advantage of Alexander's wealth. I thought you had no real intentions." She paused, wiping her tears. "But when I found out the truth, when I learned that the baby is my grandson, everything changed. I realized I was wrong." Alexander sat stunned. "Mum," he whispered. Alice looked at her son, guilt written all over her face. "Forgive me too, Alexander. I thought I was doing the right thing when I forced you into that engagement. I believed it was best for our family." She wrapped her arms around herself, trembling. "But now that I know the baby is my blood, God, how could I have treated you both that way?" Alexander watched as his mother completely broke down. "I'm so sorry, son." He was speechless. He had never seen her like this before. Then Alice looked at Jana once more, her voice softer. "Where's the baby?" she asked. "I want to see him." Alexander didn't waste another moment. He brought his parents into the hospital room. As soon as they entered, Alice went straight to the crib and looked down at the sleeping child. Her hardened exterior dissolved, no longer the intimidating businesswoman, just a grandmother, awed by the little angel before her. She gently caressed the baby's forehead as tears fell from her eyes. "My grandchild," she whispered. Yana stood frozen. The woman who had once scorned her now touched her child with love. Alice turned back to her, holding her hand. "Forgive everything I said to you before, please." Yana could barely speak, her tears now flowing freely. But Alice wasn't done. "Now that I know the truth, your child will have everything he needs. My husband and I will use all our wealth and connections to make sure he gets the best treatment in the world." And the Chen family did just that. Within 5 days, they brought in world-renowned medical specialists. Experts from different countries were flown in. No stone was left unturned. Every modern treatment available was explored and applied. For the first time, Yana felt a heavy weight lifted from her shoulders. She wasn't alone in this battle anymore. She no longer had to fear how she would fight for her child's life. Now they had a family too. As Alexander stood by her side, watching her cradle their son, he made a silent vow to himself. "I won't leave you again." He walked up to Yana and gently placed his hand on her shoulder. "Nothing will ever separate us again." Yana looked up at him, her eyes filled with tears. Alexander smiled, a smile full of certainty. "I love you, and I will never let you go again." And in front of their son and the entire family, a new beginning was born. Time passed quickly. In just a few months, Yana went through the most difficult battle of her life as a mother, facing her child's illness. But with the help of the Chen family, world-class doctors, and above all, love and faith, they finally received the news they had long been praying for. The baby is fully recovered. Yana couldn't stop her tears from falling. She looked at the doctor again and again, as if waiting to hear that she had misheard. "Doctor, is it true?" The doctor smiled. "Yes, ma'am. Based on the results of the most recent tests, there's nothing to worry about. Your child's condition is now normal." Yana held her mouth in shock. She couldn't believe it. She didn't even notice that she had already dropped to her knees, weeping quietly. Beside her, Alexander embraced her tightly. "Did you hear that? Our son is healed," he whispered. She hugged him back, so tightly as if afraid to let go. For the first time, after all the trials, they could finally breathe freely. 1 week after the baby was discharged from the hospital, a new challenge came through a call from Alice Chen. "You'll need to face the media, son." In the past months, they had made headlines, from the scandal of Alexander walking out of his wedding to the discovery of his real child. Now the press wanted answers. "Are you ready?" Alice asked Alexander, as they sat in a private room inside a 5-star hotel, where the press conference was to be held. Alexander held Yana's hand tightly. She was clearly nervous. "We'll face this together," he whispered. "We don't need to hide anymore." Yana nodded, though fear was still evident in her eyes. Hand in hand, they walked into the large conference hall, where dozens of reporters, cameras, and microphones awaited them. The flashes started. "Mr. Chen, is it true you left your bride for this woman?" "Miss Yana, how did you manage to win the heart of a business tycoon?" "Mr. Chen, are you certain this woman is the mother of your child?" Yana could barely breathe from the barrage of questions, but Alexander never let go of her hand. Instead, he turned to the crowd, calm, composed, and resolute. "That's enough." Instant silence fell over the room. Alexander scanned the crowd with a firm expression. "Let's stop the speculations. I'm here to correct the lies." He took a deep breath and continued. "The woman beside me is not a gold digger. She didn't come into my life to take advantage of me. In fact, I was the one who couldn't remember her." The reporters stirred. "I didn't know that 2 years ago I had already met her." I didn't know she was the woman I spent a night with at a masquerade party. I didn't know she was the one who changed my life forever. I didn't know she was the mother of my child, a child I nearly never knew, all because of the fear caused by my own family. Murmurs rippled through the room. Alexander reached for Yana's hand again and pulled her gently toward him. She is Yana, the mother of my son, and the woman I love. Yana felt her world spin. She never thought Alexander would say such words, in front of the entire world. She wiped her tears quickly, but they continued falling when she saw Alexander slowly kneel in front of her. Gasps echoed from the crowd. "What are you doing?" she whispered, trembling. Alexander didn't respond with words. He simply opened a small velvet box. Inside was a beautiful ring. "Yana," he said softly but firmly, "I want to be with you forever, not just as the father of your child, but as your husband. Will you marry me?" Yana broke into sobs. After all they'd been through, she had grown to love this man deeply, and now, after every trial, he was offering her forever. She nodded through her tears. "Yes, Alexander, yes." Soon after, the most elegant wedding of the year took place. But this wasn't just a union of two people, it was a merging of two entirely different worlds, a former Grab driver and a billionaire CEO. But in the end, it didn't matter how much money they had, how lavish the wedding was, or how many influential people attended. What mattered was that their love was true. At the altar, Alexander held Yana's hands tightly. "I love you," Yana smiled, radiant with joy. "And I love you." And in front of their family, friends, and the entire world, the chapter of trials and sorrow closed, and a new chapter of lasting love began. A year after Yana and Alexander got married, their lives changed completely, not because of wealth or power, but because of the love that built their family. Yana's once simple life had transformed into a world she had once thought impossible. But despite the grand mansion, designer clothes, and luxurious lifestyle, she remained the same woman, willing to do anything for her child. In the wide garden of their estate, a cheerful little boy ran around happily while his mother chased after him. "Aiden, slow down, you might trip," Yana shouted, laughing. The boy, now 3 years old, had narrow eyes and a pointed nose, features clearly inherited from his father. He giggled while playing with their dog, Mochi, a golden retriever gifted by his grandparents from China. Not far away, Alexander stood, smiling as he watched them. He sighed, thinking about how much his life had changed since he met Yana. From being a stern businessman focused solely on his career, he had become a devoted husband and father, and for the first time in his life, he felt whole. He walked over to Yana, carrying a small box in his hand. "This is for you." Yana was surprised but accepted it. "What is it?" "Open it." Inside the box was a simple bracelet engraved with their 3 names, Alexander, Yana, and Aiden. Yana smiled and couldn't hold back her tears. "It's beautiful. I love it." Alexander gently held her face. "I just want to remind you that no matter what happens, we are a family, me, you, and Aiden. You're my life." He leaned closer. "Promise me something. Promise me you'll never leave my side." Yana nodded. "I promise, my love." He pulled her into a tight embrace. Just then, Aiden ran toward them. "Mommy, Daddy, look, I found a butterfly." They looked at the small, delicate butterfly that had landed on Aiden's shoulder. For Yana, it felt like a symbol of new beginnings, a reminder that despite everything they had gone through, they had found true happiness in the end. That night, Alexander prepared a simple celebration for their first wedding anniversary. A romantic dinner was set in the garden of their mansion, with soft lights twinkling and a cool, peaceful breeze in the air. Sitting side by side, they watched Aiden eat his favorite chocolate cake. "It's delicious, Mommy," the boy squealed, his mouth covered in chocolate. Yana and Alexander laughed. "Take it slow, little panda," Alexander teased. Yana turned to her husband, her smile full of wonder. "Sometimes I still can't believe this is our life now." Alexander took her hand. "You know, I don't wish for anything else. I've already found everything I want. You and Aiden. I love you so much, Yana." "I love you too, Alexander." And under the stars, they shared a sweet kiss, a seal on their promise that no matter what, they would remain together as a family. Once she had been just a driver struggling to survive, and he, a CEO who thought only power and success could bring him happiness. But fate brought their worlds together, and in front of them now was a future filled with love, joy, and hope. This was their true, happily ever after. The end. I personally enjoyed this story. Did you enjoy it too? If yes, drop me a comment below and I'll be happy to read it. Until we meet again, this is your friend Mr. Hope. Stay safe.